Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first DELAC District English Learner Advisory Committee meeting of the 2021 school year. We want to welcome you. If you do, this is kind of what we talked about, the simultaneous interpretation. If you do not require language interpretation, please click the globe icon and select English. And it's circled on the bottom. Also, to let you know that this meeting is being recorded. If you continue, then you are consenting. If you do not want to be recorded, you have the option of turning off your camera or unfortunately leaving our meeting.
Can we go back to the other slides so everyone has the chance to read the directions for the globe?
Sorry, oops, I'm having a little bit of.
The left button if you want, yeah.
There you go.
I'm going to click out of the language channel in case there's people who need support. If anybody is not hearing, if you only hear my voice right now, that means you're not on an audio channel. So make sure to click on the globe just below next to the reaction symbol, and then you can select your audio channel of preference. On the German channel, Hmong is being interpreted. On the Portuguese channel, Vietnamese is being interpreted. If you need Spanish, you can click Spanish, or English, you need to click English. If you don't make a selection, you will not hear the meeting with us. Okay, I gave an update.
This is our agenda. It was also emailed to you. I don't know if we can share the link just in case anybody would like to have it. It should also be on our DELAC website. This is a short video that we would like for you guys to see.
And then make sure to turn on the captions, the little CC.
Turn on captions before proceeding.
To the
Press CC, and a red line is below showing that the subtitles closed captions are on. If you go into settings, you can click on subtitles to select your language. If it's not available, you can click auto translate and then scroll for your language. Once you select your language, you can press play. You'll hear the audio in the original language. However, the captions will be translated for you.
Press pause.
Welcome, we are DELAC.
Sorry about that. Let's
So
go
when
back.
you go back to the video, don't press play yet. Hover over it, move your mouse a little bit. Oh, I guess we have to press play. When you press play, then press pause right after.
Okay.
Okay, bottom right corner, you can push it into full screen.
Proceeding.
Bottom right.
Press CC,
And then make
a
it
red
full
line is
screen.
below showing that the subtitles
square
closed
is
captions are
To the
on.
right.
If you go into settings, you can click on subtitles to select your language. If it's not available, you can click auto translate and then scroll for your language. Once you select your language, you can press play. You'll hear the audio in the original language. However, the captions will be translated for you. Welcome, we are DELAC and we are putting together the Zoom tutorial. Welcome, we are DELAC and we are putting together the Zoom tutorial to present how to use simultaneous interpretation features on Zoom. We recognize that our meetings are looking a lot differently now that we've moved into responsible distancing. And while we do that, we want to make sure that our members and our community are still able to get the really vital information that they're going to need to make decisions for themselves, for their families, and within their community so that they can stay safe and stay informed. So I'm going to pass the virtual microphone to our president so that she can introduce herself to you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Yova Santamaria, and I am the DELAC president.
My name is Leana Sanchez. I am the DELAC Vice President.
Mi nombre es Belia Mercado y soy la secretaria de DELAC.
Lupe, we couldn't hear you. It's okay. Go ahead.
My name is Lupe Rios, and I work at Hiram Johnson High School, and I'm the ELD coordinator there.
Awesome. Thank you so See, it's hard to remember to unmute. So thank you so much for interpreting for us today. We are so appreciative that you understand the value of interpretation so that we can meet the language needs of all of our community in the district and better serve our students and families. For the interpretation demonstration that we're going to do today, Lupe will be interpreting in Spanish what will be presented for the purpose of the demonstration by our president. So she is going to switch to the Spanish channel. Here you will see the shape of a globe. Right now I have selected English. Perhaps if I turn it off, you can see the globe. Whether you're listening in English or Spanish, you must make a decision so that you can be on the audio channel that you want to listen to. So if you do not need interpretation, you still need to select the English channel. I'm going to select the Spanish channel as Lupe is the Spanish interpreter. And that way, when Lupe is interpreting, I'll be able to hear the main speaker who is presenting in English at 20% volume, while Lupe is interpreting at 80% volume. I'm going to mute myself and move on to the Spanish channel so I can listen to Lupe's interpretation while Yoba is speaking.
Hello, we welcome you to our Zoom meeting. Let's review some Zoom features.
Bienvenidos a toda esta reunión. Vamos a repasar algunas características. Puedes primero activar para participar en la conversación. Por favor, mantengan el micrófono para evitar ruidos de fondo. Cuando hay grupos más grandes, les toca su turno cuando vean la manita levantada o pueden poner su mano en la cámara. Pueden levantar la mano virtualmente haciendo clic en la lista de participantes y luego apretando el botón. Pueden apagar o prender la cámara. Pueden apagarla haciendo clic en la cámara. Los animamos a que dejen la cámara prendida mientras sea apropiado para compartir el espacio virtualmente. Para usar el chat, hagan clic en el chat. Que leen los mensajes, pueden escribir ahí también. Por favor, recuerden que los intérpretes están ayudando a traducir la palabra. Actualmente estamos solicitando más intérpretes para que haya suficientes para traducir las partes verbales y escritas, pero que también puedan tener acceso a traducir simultáneamente. Para usar las reacciones, presione la imagen de la manita de aplauso o la imagen del dedo pulgar arriba. Una forma no verbal para participar en la conversación. Los queremos invitar en este momento a que presionen la imagen del dedo pulgar arriba. Si están escuchando esta interpretación y quieren cambiar de canal de audio, pueden hacerlo presionando la imagen del mundo. Este es el final del tutorial.
We hope that that tutorial was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to the Multilingual Department or the DELAC committee. We're here to support you.
Can I quickly explain the video, Yoga? Okay, so the video was extremely grassroots, as you can see. DELAC Council worked together with the EL coordinator at Hiram Johnson, Ms. Rios, to coordinate the video and give more language accessibility in our advocacy. I apologize that the sound, Asada, it looks like you might accidentally be annotating the video. But I apologize if the sound was not clear. That's a reason why at the beginning we emphasized the captions. So as you noticed, we're recording this video and we have invited people who have reservations with the recording to either turn off their cameras or to watch the recording later on. And you can submit questions to Multilingual through the contact information provided on the website. But when we upload the video, that's an opportunity to have the captions playing. And you can use the interpretation feature through the YouTube technology to be able to have it auto-translated into different languages. So that's one way of taking advantage of the service. If you still have questions about it, I'm going to write DELAC's email into the chat, and you can send questions about interpretation to us, and we'd be happy to help support and troubleshoot or connect you with somebody at the district that can help you.
I was just going to mention that our email is in the bold on the video as well. If you have any questions, that goes directly to council and we all see it and you will get a response from one of us. You can go to the next video, to the next slide.
It looks like annotations are turned on.
So we wanted to give any new members some information on what DELAC and ELAC is. And so the purpose of ELAC is to advise the principal and school staff on programs and services for English learners, advise school site council on the development of the school plan for student achievement, usually known as a SIPSA, to recommend SIPSA actions to support English learners in order of importance to support students, participate in the development of the school's needs assessments, make parents aware of the importance of regular school attendance. And that's at every school site, and that should be happening at every site that has EL students. Now the role of DELAC, which is what we do this district level, and it is to advise the school board on the development of the local control accountability plan, also known as the LCAP, based on district, school, and student data. For the 2021 school year, the traditional LCAP has been suspended. Instead, DELAC will advise the Learning, Continuity, and Attendance Plan, known as the LCA plan. Recommended LCAP actions to support English learners in order of importance to support students. And now I will pass it over to Mr. Matt Turkey, and he will present to you the next slides.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome. My name is Matt Turkey, and I am the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. And it is wonderful to be here this evening. So I'm going to go over some updates around the Multilingual Department. The Multilingual Department has now been shifted and is a part of the Curriculum and Instruction Division. Now, in my head, this makes perfect sense because now multilingual is in the exact same division as ELA, as math, as science, as GATE, and it just makes sense to have all of the subject matters all together, okay? And in terms of other updates, our multilingual director is still a vacant position. We have advertised for that position and are going through a hiring process very soon. We have a brand new multilingual coordinator in Azarel Iniguez, and I want to welcome Azarel to the department. She's been a wonderful addition, and she's been in the department since July 1st and is already making a difference. And so we're really, really happy to have Azarel as our multilingual coordinator. The administrative support, we have two very dedicated people in Ko Lee and Nicole Adams, who are the support for the department. in terms of translation and interpretation support that is provided as needed. And the department can line up support usually through the Mock Center and through other places as needed. And tonight, the interpretation is being provided through Excel. And now I'm going to go on to some of the resources within the multilingual department. So we have training specialists at the district level who work directly with teachers, and they work with teachers on planning lessons, delivering lessons, on standards implementation. And our ELA and ELD departments are really combined together. So our training specialists, we have 6 training specialists in elementary, and they are split funded by Title III, which is from the Multilingual Department, and Title I, which is from the rest of the Curriculum and Instruction Department. And those 6 ELA, ELD training specialists cover all of the elementary schools. We also have 1 secondary training specialist who is 100% funded by the Multilingual Department. Now, in the elementary space, each of the training specialists cover about 6 different schools. I will say that not all of the schools would be covered equally, however, because as we all know, some schools have got more EL students than others, and those schools would generally get more time from a training specialist. Now, the ELA, ELD training specialists work with all of our other training specialists as well. So they work with our math, with our science, and with all of the other subject areas. And while our ELA, ELD training specialists may be the content experts when it comes to the multilingual department and ELD, supporting EL students is everybody's job. And so the training specialists in whichever content they are in will also be supporting EL students and may well go to our ELA, ELD training specialist and saying, hey, I'd really like to partner with you and perhaps you could help me around ELD and math, for example. Okay, so that is an overview of the multilingual restructure. And as I say, I'm really happy to have multilingual in the Curriculum and Instruction Division. Thank you very much.
Matt, someone wrote in the comment section if you could explain what the acronyms are, please.
Oh, sure. Okay, the Mock Center, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna need some help with that one myself. I've been saying it for so long. I apologize.
Matriculation and orientation, I believe.
Thank you. Thank you. Matriculation and Orientation Center. Thank you. ELA is our English Language Arts, and ELD is English Language Development, and our TS stands for Training Specialists. And our English Language Arts and English Language Development training specialists are combined. So each of those folks support both English Language Arts and English Language Development.
Mr. Goris had a question.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, hi Matt, how are you? Thank you for coming by and just talking to us, we really appreciate it. So here's my question / comment, and I'm a New Yorker, so I'm gonna try to soften my message so the delivery doesn't come out so brash. So we all agree that EL students are vulnerable students, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then the pandemic hit, so it made them more vulnerable. Then we get rid of the director. So now they're in even worse shape. So what is the district's plan? Are they gonna fill this director position? Because we need every possible resource available to these students.
So the answer is yes, we are going to do everything which we can to fill that position. Absolutely. I would also say that in terms of now the multilingual department being part of curriculum and instruction and part of the family, we all are going to be putting our arms around EL students. And that's not to say that the position of multilingual director isn't important, because of course it is. But while we are still waiting to fill that position, that will not stop us moving ahead with the supports we know we need for EL students. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just have a follow-up comment. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything that you guys are doing. I really do. My concern is the slow response from the district. I really hope that this is a high priority, and thank you for everything you do in your labor for children. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If there's no more questions from Matt. Oh, I'm sorry. Ana Aristeo has a question. Go ahead.
I have a question. So you said that there's some training specialists. Is that who do we contact for that, or is that something that's directly coming from the principal to contact the specialist as for teachers support?
So the training specialists work in curriculum and instruction and report at the moment to Azarel and also Jeanette Schroeder, who is the English Language Arts coordinator. And we assign them to school sites to work with principals and to work with teachers. And they work with principals, and then the principal would say, okay, I really want you to focus with this team right here on these things, for example, okay? And then the training specialist will work directly with the teachers. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And we also have a question from Superintendent Aguilar.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to say that I'm really happy to be part of this meeting and do intend to do to really listen to the conversation.
Đây là những cái câu hỏi của ông Superintendent,
very excellent.
của ông trưởng ty giáo dục của
reassure Mr. Goris and everyone on this call that if there is still a vacancy, it's because ultimately I made the decision that in the first round of the search for that position, I was not satisfied with the candidates that were presented to me. It is by no means because we don't take this position seriously. In fact, it's the reason why I made the organizational shifts in that division. And I also want to make sure that that I state very clearly that the transition into Assistant Superintendent Turkey's division is by no means because I expect the new Director of Multilingual Services to have to compete for attention or have to compete for resources, human or capital. I've been part of organizations where individuals responsible for English learners are having to compete for attention and resources. The reality is that in a district where more than 20% of our students are English learners, and the funding mechanism from the state accounts for that large percentage, there better not be a reason for an individual holding that position to have to compete for resources or for attention. And so I just wanted to respond to that, Mr. Goris. I'm sorry that it wasn't really a question, but I just thought that it was such an important question that I wanted to make sure that I responded to directly to everyone that's part of this meeting.
Thank you, Superintendent. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And also, and can DELAC leadership be part of the process when you're hiring? Is that a possibility? I did present that before.
Yes. So there are members of the DELAC council who are going to be on the interview panel.
And then there was a question in the chat, and also Ms. Villanueva has a question. So I'll read the one from the chat and then we'll go to Ms. Villanueva. And it says, why do we have 6 TS for elementary and 1 TS for secondary?
This is a very good question. And secondary, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest, secondary here is an area of need. And we would love to have more training specialists in secondary. I mean, we'd love to have more training specialists in elementary too, but there is a need in secondary, it's true.
And Ms. Villanueva, you can go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, my question to Mr. Turkey is, within the department, what would be the support for world language classes, especially when world language classes such as heritage language classes support the English learners? I have asked that question before because you know that those two are very well aligned. And especially the support that our English learners or emerging bilinguals need when they're placed in their heritage language classes.
I mean, of course, the multilingual department, you know, is of all languages and including those world language classes and those heritage classes. Is there, I mean, is there something in particular that you would like to see, or some places in particular where you think which certainly need more support?
Oh, definitely. We as I have raised this question before, we need support, first of all, in the content. The textbooks that we have is from 2000. The textbooks are older than the students, the relevance that they provide, as well as training, instructional support. We know, and I know that the world language teachers, once again, provide an immense support to all students, and especially those who are very vulnerable as our English language learners. And if you don't mind, I would like to express this in Spanish because of the audience that we have. Is that okay?
Of course.
Sí, para todos.
One moment. They won't be able to hear it because the Spanish interpreter, unless the Spanish interpreter comes to English, but all of our Spanish audience is on the Spanish channel.
Oh, got it. I just want to make sure that that question is understood for the Spanish-speaking audience. But thank you, appreciate it. Go ahead,
Liz. If you go to the Spanish channel, you can ask it in Spanish, and the interpreter will say it for the English listeners. So you can speak directly to the Spanish audience.
Oh, thank you.
If you click the Spanish channel.
Thank you, Ms. Sánchez. I think. Sí, esta pregunta la quiero.
You're still in the English.
Am I? Okay, I thought that. Yeah. I guess I need more help, but I don't want to, but if, yeah, I try, but it's, yeah.
Yo estoy en el salón con los hispanoparlantes y yo le escucho perfectamente.
Muchas gracias, director Peterson. Sí, la pregunta que acabo de hacer es, la quiero poner en español, sobre la importancia de que este departamento también ofrezca ayuda a las clases de lenguas mundiales, en este caso, hablo como maestra de español, sobre todo cuando el aprendizaje del inglés está muy bien alineado con el apoyo en su primera lengua o en la lengua de herencia. Debido a que esta es una gran necesidad y los departamentos de lenguas desafortunadamente no recibimos este tipo de apoyo tanto en contenido ni tampoco en entrenamiento o en capacitación, y quería asegurarme que la audiencia lo escuchara en español de mi parte. Gracias. Thank you, Mr. Turkey.
Yes, thank you. So I'd like to respond, if I can, just to recognize that in terms of the instructional materials, you're absolutely right. They are outdated, and we recognize that the instructional materials for world languages are outdated, along with some of the other materials as well. So again, this is an area of need, and it's recognized that it's an area of need. And going along with that, I'd agree with you in terms of the training and instructional support for world language teachers. While we have our collaborative time at every single site where teachers can collaborate with one another, that is something which we need to give more support to in terms of instruction.
And just to follow up really quick, Mr. Turkey, it was I was informed that in the year 2020 there was going to start the choosing new curriculum, and we haven't heard anything. And this was back 2 years ago. Do you have any update on that? Because we heard this before. Just want to make sure that we will follow up on this.
Yes, no, you're correct. We did. I mean, I remember those meetings. We looked into those meetings and we developed a timeline. And at the moment, we don't have the. I mean, money is an issue in the district, and a purchase of instructional materials across the district costs a lot of money, and it's something which it's difficult at the moment because the need is recognized, but the financial situation of the district is still not good.
Thank you.
And there was one last question in the chat that asked, how do we make this happen? This is in reference to asking about the number of training specialists in elementary compared to secondary. And it says, how do we make this happen for secondary TS if we know there's a need?
That is a good question, which I am noting down. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the question, because there is a need, is correct.
If there's anything else, any more questions, I'm looking through and not seeing any raised hands. If there is, if not, then we're going to move on to the next portion of our DELAC meeting. The next.
Madam President, real quick, I put in a question just now. I was just typing too slow. With Mr. Turkey acknowledging that that there was they did recognize that the material was out of date and there's a financial impact on that. Can this committee maybe get from the district some kind of financial standing moving forward as far as what we can do or where we can put our best resources, just so these students have a fighting chance and stuff with the academics? Thank you.
Madam President, this is Superintendent Aguilar again. Can I just also just really encourage everyone that's viewing and participating in this call. At our next board meeting on August 20th, we will be presenting, but I would also welcome the opportunity at your convenience and your invitation to have a budget presentation for DELAC that we could spend some time talking to all of our DELAC members as well. But on August 20th, I would encourage everyone that's on the call participating today to be part of that board meeting, because we will be providing a budget update based on more final information from the budget that was approved by the state in June. And that again would provide greater context to everyone that's part of this meeting. But again, at your invitation, we would welcome the opportunity to participate in a future meeting and just have an agenda item related to where the district stands with respect to our budget and fiscal constraints.
Yes, I agree, and hopefully that's something that we can add to our September agenda. And we also have the information for the board meeting at the end with other important dates for that as well. So if there's anything else, then we'll move on to our next agenda item. And I will hand it over to our multilingual coordinator, Azareli Níguez.
Good afternoon, everybody. Buenas tardes a todos. First of all, I just want to say I am so happy to be part of our DELAC meeting again, and I just want to welcome each and every one of you. Thank you so much for taking this time out of your busy afternoon and just coming together with us. We are really looking to build partnerships, and we are counting on you to be our partner for this coming year and for the ones after. So let's go ahead and begin with the coming back together plan of the district, right? So we all know that our first day of instruction, I'm going to slow down a little bit just for the purposes of for the interpretation, but our first day of instruction is going to be Thursday, September 3rd of 2020. That's going to be our first day of instruction. So we're all excited. Woohoo, we're going to do this year, right? We're going to make it happen. Unfortunately, the Sacramento CSUSD is still is part of the Sacramento County, obviously, and we are on the governor's monitor list. So because of that, we are not able to start in-person learning or going back to school as we would have liked to. And I know that personally, myself, teachers, everybody is just anxious to see all our students back, but unfortunately right now it's not safe to do so. And CSUSD's top priority is to maintain a safe environment for all our students and all our staff. So once we know it is safe to go back, definitely we're going to be open arms welcoming everybody back to our schools. So we will begin our 2021 school year with distance learning. And no, Superintendent Aguilar touched upon this as well. Governor Newsom signed Senate Bill 98, which is SB 98, on June 29th of 2020, which provided funds for our district. But within those, there's requirements that our district is going to meet. And I'm just going to give you a brief overview. So within that plan, Sacramento City Unified School District shall provide 240 instructional minutes to students in every grade per day. And what that is, that's going to consist of synchronous learning. And what that is where teachers and students are together in at the same time and at the same space, which is through Zoom or through Google Classroom, right? And learning is taking place. So that means students are able to raise their hand on the computer. They're able to ask questions about what the teacher is teaching. So it's interactive. There's also a part of synchronous learning, which means learning will take place by a video. The teacher has recorded a lesson. He has recorded a lesson of teaching, and so then students could go back and review that lesson. They can preview that lesson, or they can just review it to further support their learning at their own time. So there's going to be two types of learning occurring within that 240 instructional minutes. Again, it's going to be with the teacher and the rest of the students, or in small groups, and it's going to be through video lessons. And then, of course, the teacher will follow up with a review. How many of you didn't understand what happened in the lesson? How many of you need further support? So the teacher will always be responsible for the learning that takes place. And of course, students will always be able to ask questions. This 240 instructional minutes do not include the teacher's office hours. And what office hours are where teachers are available to answer students' questions. And that's specifically more to like middle and high school where they have 150 students or more. And so they need to have that one-on-one meeting for a review or for instruction or to further their learning. So it does not also include professional development, and it does not include staff or grade level meetings amongst teachers. So those 240 instructional minutes are for students and students only. Okay. So part of the SB 98 also required, and I'm not going to read all of it because it's a lot of content, but I am going to give you just a brief summary. So it does require that there's direct live instructions for every student, and that it's able to be accessed via live for students with the option of it being recorded so that the students can go back on alternate days and review. Or if they could go back to, say the student is not feeling well, that when they are much better, they can view their lesson. Access and availability, teachers are available outside of the direct instruction, again, to always maintain and continue that learning and to answer any questions that the students may have. There should be symmetry and cohesion in learning and delivery, which means all our classrooms or all teachers will be using Google Classroom. And for many of our parents who are there, you're probably familiar with Google Classroom because that's what we were using already when we went into distance learning back in March. So it's easy. It's going to be the same so that parents don't have to. It's going to make it easier for families so that families don't say, well, my student's doing Google Classroom here, but they're doing something else here. So it's all going to be, the platform is Google Classroom. So to make it easier for our students and our families. There will be collaboration. So that means teachers and principals and colleagues, us included, will all be working together. We'll be working together to support each other for the benefit of our students and their families. And basically, how do we meet our students' learning needs? There's going to be professional development and supports for our educators. As of now, our administrators are going through training. Training will be happening for our teachers as well. And of course, we'll be there again to support our site administrators and also our teachers in whatever professional development that's needed for the benefit of our students. There will be supports for special students receiving special education, students who have IEPs. All of the IEPs will be honored, and I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Targeted students, so there will be small groups for students who need extra support or special instruction, such as our English language learners with integrated and designated ELD, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too, what that is. Communication and feedback will be constant and will be a regular communication to our students and to our families so that they are aware of how they are on the progress of learning their learning intentions or their learning goals. There will also be a weekly student teacher parent communication report so that parents always know and our families always know where your student is at their learning at that particular time. And this, of course, parents would always able to communicate with their teachers or ask questions as to why is this done or how can I support. Assessments and accountability. We are completely for accountability and assessment, so there will be assessments to understand and to evaluate where students are, because I know that some students left. Well, students left in March, so we need to understand where they are right now and how they're progressing in their learning in the year to come. Of course, there will be support for English language learners and designated and integrated instruction ELD, and we are going to make sure that our students are moving towards language proficiency and their targeted support across the curriculum. Okay, and just a brief, what is integrated ELD? Well, integrated ELD is, its teachers provide language acquisition support during regular content area lessons. So that means that while they're instructing throughout the day, they're doing small groups, or not small groups, but they're doing scaffolding, they're doing strategies to help students acquire the English language so that they can access the grade level standards. And then you also have designated ELD. Designated ELD is protected time, usually done in small groups, where teachers provide extra lessons or lessons for English language learners to provide that English proficiency so that they can access the English language arts grade level standards at their grade level. So there is a proposed minimum minutes per week for kindergarten. There's a 40-minute per week. Double for newcomers, which would be 80. If you're a first through third grade, then there would be a 60 minimum minutes per week, and that'd be 120 for newcomers. Grades 4 through 6 again would be 60, and again double for newcomers. Grades 7 through 8 will be designated class or 60 minutes, and for newcomers it will be a designated class. For grades 9 through 12, it'd be a designated class or 60 minutes. And again, for newcomers, it would be a designated class.
Okay, and we have our first question in the chat, and it says, when do these minutes occur? I think they're talking about the designated ELD. It says, is that in addition to the 240 minutes?
That's within the 240 minutes, and those occur usually we leave that up to sites. So the principals will decide as to when those minutes are occurring, but there's also accountability within the admin will be responsible to make sure that those minutes are happening. So, but it is a site decision. It could be before, at the beginning of the class, or it could be at the end. It just, that's more of a flexible, it's more flexible at that time, but the minutes are not flexible. Those are standard.
Okay. I don't see any more questions in the chat. I don't know if anybody has their hand raised. Go ahead.
Okay. Or maybe I just explained it well.
I'm looking through our attendance and I don't see.
Okay.
If there's
If
any
you-
questions, you can type it in the chat or we can come
Absolutely.
back to it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
I have some constituent questions that I can pull up while we wait for other hands.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
For the 240 minutes, are they supposed to be split evenly, or is there versus synchronous versus the other one?
Absolutely. And I know that, so it's 240 minutes of instruction, including synchronous and asynchronous learning. So that's going to be determined by site. That's going to be how your site administrator and their staff will communicate as to how that's going to be done.
Thank you.
If there's any more, then we are going to move on to our next agenda item.
I can ask a couple real quick. I know that we're kind of short on time, but I wanted to bring it up just in case. For distance learning, a question that has come up a lot that we still don't have dates for that are calendared. What are the offerings and timeline for parent caregiver trainings on technology? What phone number can students and families call for tech support with language accessibility?
Okay, great. So right now we are, that is in the works right now. Right now we're starting off with our site administrators since they are already back and they're ready, eager to go. We're then moving on to our teachers to make sure they're equipped and they're ready to start the year successfully for our students. And then we are definitely planning workshops for our parents. That's in the works as well, but we are definitely looking at that as a priority as well.
And then I have some more questions, but Asadel, I do not expect you to be the spokesperson for the district. So if you're not sure of the answer, I know there's a lot of planning to plan. I don't want you to feel that kind of pressure, but since we have other stakeholders and district staff, maybe they can speak to it.
Sure.
So how is FERPA compliance being attended to? FERPA being our student protection and privacy. So for how is student privacy compliance being attended to if daily lessons are recorded and posted for rewatching? How is student privacy protected? How is Sac City Unified ensuring teachers and staff have necessary information, resources, and tools to maintain what is called FERPA compliance?
Ms. Sanchez, I'll try to take that one. And I'd like to answer that question, and then I'd like to make a comment about just our return to learn plan. One is we, of course, will make sure that we abide by all FERPA, only because that's an obligation that we have, because this is a new learning method, if you will. This is an area that we will make sure that we're working with the Department of Education, which enforces FERPA violations. And I'll make a note to make sure that that is an area that we provide a written response to not only our DELAC members, but also to our community. I did want to clarify, only because I think it was my internet that was a bit spotty, that as Ms. Iniguez went through elements of our return to learn plan, I do want to clarify in good faith that this is a reflection of the proposal that we have provided and submitted to our teachers union. Those negotiations are still ongoing. So I want to be very clear that what you're seeing in these slides, again, just reflects our proposal to our teachers union. And as we continue negotiations, of course, we will make sure that we are communicating on an ongoing basis to our community about what a final agreement might look like. But when we talk about 240 minutes, for example, that is what we included in our proposal. Whether it ends with 240, fewer or more, will be dependent on those negotiations. So I only want to clarify that what you're seeing in our Return to Learn plan is a reflection of our proposal to our union. But of course, we are in the process of negotiating each and every one of those elements. And I want to make sure that that everyone hears that clearly and doesn't assume that this is what we are going to see on September 3rd, because we are still negotiating.
Thank you, Superintendent Aguilar, for that.
Unless there's more people with questions, but I have more on the list.
I think you're all good.
Okay. So regarding parent and caregiver engagement for our Return to Learn plan, one is the automated system. So if you dial like the district office number, for example, 643-7400, the main line. One is the automated system when dialing district phone numbers, including but not limited to the central line, but also school sites, going to be updated to include language preferences at the beginning of the phone call. For example, press 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. Currently, we only hear English and we don't have language support.
It's a very good question, and I've seen that question posed, I will say that we will certainly look into that, Ms. Sanchez. And please don't treat this as an excuse. We do have a vacancy at the moment in our Chief Information Officer, who manages, eventually will manage all technology needs for the district and for each of our schools. And I've made a note to make sure that this is also a priority for us, given the very diverse population of families that we serve and that we're honored to serve. As an urban school district, we have to do everything that we can to work way beyond the doors of our schools and the walls of our schools to maintain such a diverse population, because as you know, there are very few urban school districts that have been able to maintain the level of diversity that Sac City has, for reasons that are in some cases beyond our control, gentrification and other forces that are at play. But it is an area that we have to demonstrate greater sensitivity to.
And then I'll just summarize this last one into make it applicable for both. What is the protocol for families or staff that require interpretation or translation services? For example, if a parent or staff member needs to speak to or email one another, how do caregivers and staff solicit interpretation services to facilitate communication? Is this service funded by the school site or the school district to support our multilingual families? If it is not funded directly at the district level, how do we ensure these services are funded to facilitate communication?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I do want to just reiterate something that Ms. Iñiguez mentioned for our community. All of our schools are back in session, if you will, in that our principals are back. You heard Mr. Peterson, our wonderful principal at Burbank, and we may have other principals on this call. I saw that many were invited. So we are no longer in this position where our schools are closed, our principals are off, and we're trying to manage everything centrally. So I would say that the first step is for any of our family members to go to our school sites, to reach out to our school sites for that kind of support. But the idea of a protocol, I think, is also very reasonable, Ms. Sanchez. But I would encourage at this point now for our families to reach out directly to our schools.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. If there's any more questions on that, then we will move on. And for that, we have Becky Bryant.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to be here tonight. I'm wondering if someone can give me access to share screen so I can put up a short PowerPoint.
One moment.
One moment.
Have an interpreter. We have an interpreter on the English line, but I'm not sure if you need to be assigned to a radio channel or click away from English. And then Ms. Bryant, are you on the English channel? Your voice is coming in low for me.
It says off, so I should be on English?
Oh, yeah. Yes, please.
Okay.
Ready.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And she would like to share her PowerPoint. It's not on here, right, Becky?
No, I did send
Okay.
it to you in an email as a backup.
Okay, I want to go ahead and stop sharing.
There's always a breath of fresh air when you get to stop sharing your screen.
Absolutely.
So am I on share screen now?
You're a co-host, so you're welcome to share your screen.
Thank you. So everyone, I'm Becky Bryant. I am the interim SELPA director for the district, and SELPA stands for the Special Education Local Plan Area. We are a catchment area to provide special education services to students, and we are fortunate to be a single district SELPA so that all of the activities for providing services, almost all of them are provided in-house by the district. Some questions that the group posed to me prior to this meeting was to give a very short overview about what special education services would look like when school starts. And I think you've heard some information tonight about what school is going to look like for students and what it's going to look like and how it's going to be different from the school that your child participated in from April till June. And so what I'd like to share with you, and this is our mantra for this year in every forum we go to, is that every student with an IEP is a general education student first and foremost. So the plans that you're hearing about for the district tonight for students are for all students, including our students with IEPs. So we, of course, are part of all of the work that is going on. And then there are a few other additional considerations for students with IEPs. We know that many of our parents who have families, who have children with disabilities, had significant issues, sometimes accessing the technology, having their child pay attention to the instruction. And we've heard from families how hard it was, and we acknowledge that. So the expectations for the distance learning, the expectations of the teachers and the support staff will be accelerated this coming year so that all of our students have increased access and interaction with their teachers and all of their related service providers. And that will include, as was discussed in the last presentation, both synchronous and asynchronous learning. We also anticipate and expect that students with IEPs will have additional small group instruction in breakout rooms in Zoom or through the Zoom, Google Classroom, so that related service providers can work directly with small groups of students, instructional aides can support instruction, and teachers can also use small group instruction when it's needed. State law, which was SB 98, which was recently enacted, requires us to document how we are providing services during distance learning. And those will need to be documented in either an individualized distance learning plan for each student or an IEP amendment. We're currently in discussion with how to present that at the beginning of the year to families and to have staff engage with families about what distance learning specifically will look like in the implementation of a student's IEP. If the current IEP that your child has can be implemented as it's written, and the only difference is that the services are not provided face-to-face, but all of the minutes can be met and all of the specific services can be met, then there was an allowance from the state that we would not have to rewrite IEPs. However, because distance learning is quite a bit different than some of the way that our services are provided when we are face-to-face with students, most IEPs will need to be amended to specifically state how we're providing each specific service that a student gets in their IEP through a distance learning model. All of the other requirements of an IEP continue, so parents who have concerns certainly have the ability to continue to request IEP meetings if they have concerns that they need addressed in a formal setting. And we're required to hold those within 30 days of the date that they are requested. As we did in the spring, we will continue to schedule and hold all of the annual and triennial IEPs when they're due. We know we have some catching up to do as well from last year. What's currently on hold and not known, and we're currently investigating all options for this, is for families who have asked for their students to be tested for possible eligibility, how we will proceed with those assessments. We are not able at this time to do face-to-face assessments, and we look forward to a time when we can do that and do that safely for both students and staff. So we are looking at all of the options and looking at how surrounding districts also are addressing this. For the time being, we hope that we will have a concrete answer for families by the time that school starts. I was also asked to talk about where a parent would go for help. And this was specific to, if I've tried my case manager, which is the first person, your child's teacher, or the case manager for the IEP, those are always the first people that you would go to. If I can't get help from that person, where do I go next? The next place you go is the site principal of the school site for your child's school. If you don't feel that you can reach out to that person, or you haven't been successful in reaching out, we also have program specialists that work out of our central office. They work from the special education department, and they're assigned to each school site to assist families and school staff to get services provided out at school sites for each student. If in fact none of the three above work for you, then we also will have special education supervisors that can also assist, and they work out of the central office. Their title has changed for the 2020 school year, and they will be known as the administrators for teaching and learning in special education. So that was a very brief presentation about what's different or how special education services will be provided. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I don't know if there's any questions. There's no one that has their hand raised. I don't know if Ms. Sanchez has any questions from families that were submitted.
Junior has his hand raised. I think people
I'm sorry.
will start raising their hand in a moment.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Goris.
Sorry, I just feel bad that I keep bombarding with all these questions, but it's just like, this is all like a new world with everything my apologies to the committee and to the officers and superintendent, so my apologies. My question is, with special services, how does a child go from Sac City to SCUSD? Is that an appropriate question to ask you, or is that another department?
Sure. No, sure. Well, if a student has an IEP and the family moves perhaps to a different district, any district in the area or in the state of California, or even in other districts in other states, their IEP will transfer to the next place with the student. And
sorry, go ahead, I'm sorry.
if you're asking specifically, if you're interested in a program that's presented by SCUSD and you would like to seek out a placement there, that could either be done by some sort of an enrollment procedure, permission from each district, or a referral from our district to theirs, depending on if it's appropriate.
Right, because my neighbor, I translated for her IEP, and she's a Sac City student because of Sac City representative at the IEP, but it was a SCUSD school district thing. So when she was asking me, how did I wind up at SCUSD, I couldn't give her the answer. So I just kind of wanted to give her that information. But I guess I can contact the department and navigate through that. So thank you. I appreciate it.
So SCUSD does, we do send students to SCUSD. They have some programs for students that we don't have, and we do contract with them for some services.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Ms. Guillen had a question.
Yes, hi. Thank you very much for the presentation so far. It's been very informative for me. I have a question of Ms. Bryant. I don't know that much about the SELPA process, so I'm curious, aren't there a number of students that are within the SELPA but are assigned to non-public schools? And in that case, how are you reaching out to them about what their distance learning is going to look like?
So in the spring, we met with each school individually to find out what their plans were. For this school year, we are being notified by each school what their plan is. And so far, all but one is beginning the year in distance learning because of their location being in a county that's on the watch list.
I see, thank you. And where do we find those plans?
Well, they've been sent to me individually. They are not published. I'm sure they're published on the website of each of the schools that we contract with.
I see. Okay, so I should advise parents then to go to those schools' websites, and if they do not see them, to contact the school for those plans.
Right, or they can contact me directly.
All right, Ms. Bryant, thank you so much.
I want to make sure that our participants or members who are receiving language interpretation know that they can also participate by asking questions. The interpreters are here to support you. And so if you ask your question in your preferred language, they can interpret it to English for us so we can maintain the conversation. So we do hope to hear from everybody. I have some questions on the screen for Ms. Bryant that I can read aloud that I know has come up from some of our constituents. So if a student has a one-to-one aid per their IEP, how will the student continue to be provided this support during distance learning online instruction? Some agencies have successfully supported students in home. How do we ensure this service is provided to all students whose IEP has determined one-to-one aid support?
So if our students, going into the fall, if our students have additional adult support as an accommodation on their IEP, we will be providing that through a distance learning model. It will not be currently in a face-to-face model, but the one-to-one support will be there for the student through the distance learning. And they will be working alongside the teacher. They can provide small group instruction in a breakout room. they can meet one-on-one with the student as needed, but it will be from a distance perspective. And we are in the process of meeting with the larger agencies that employ our instructional aides, as well as getting ready to assign our own instructional aides as well that serve in that capacity.
Before I ask another question, I'll look through the participants to see if someone else is raising their hand. So another question that we had for language accessibility is about parent rights. Parent rights are distributed, they're available, and then when they're handed out to parents again at their meetings. However, we were wondering if there's a way to make it so that parents can and caregivers can better orient themselves to this document by having the document screencast in the translated language and having audio provided. So maybe not as a question specific to Ms. Bryant, but something that if Mock is the one that's providing translation and interpretation support, if we can prioritize this, because it's a very dense document. And from my perspective, it feels very dense. And if we can make it available, I know sometimes, and parents and caregivers, community members might be able to attest to this. They find out, oh, you have a different primary language. I'll just give you that document in that language. But I'll be vulnerable and share about my grandparents. They're not literate, and they speak Spanish. And so handing them a document that's written in Spanish is not going to give them that language accessibility that many people assume.
That's a really excellent idea. And, as we've navigated through all of this technology for the last few months and learned so much, I personally don't know how to do that, but it sounds like something that's possible to do. And we certainly will look into that.
I'm happy to support. It's not my idea. I'm not going to claim it. Again, it came from our membership. The teacher who suggested it, if she, she's very humble. She's on the call, but probably may or may not claim it. We'll see. But I am appreciative for that sense of community and collaboration where these ideas can come to the forefront and be shared. Again, I know our beginning on Zoom was a little challenging with interpretation, but I hope I can slowly demonstrate some technology proficiency to support a project like this, however I can. Let's see. Are there any other members that would like to ask a question? I won't ask any of these aloud unless they stand out. So if the interpreters would like to read the questions to the members, and if anyone is interested in a particular question or has their own, we can ask Ms. Bryant while she's with us.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So last spring, many of our instructional assistants did not participate in distance learning. What is the plan for instructional assistants, specifically for special education, to participate in distance learning? And will they receive training on how they can support our students?
That certainly is part of the return to learning plan. And as the superintendent very specifically spoke about, this is a plan and it is being negotiated by different labor partners. And so our expectation is that we will have our instructional aides with us in the instruction when school starts. But we have to have the caveat that all of this is it's under negotiation.
Thank you. Is there another question? Go ahead.
No, I was just thanking Ms. Bryant.
If I could add just one last thing. We got a lot of questions and concerns around related services, whether or not all of them occurred in the spring. And so going into the fall, we absolutely expect that all of the related services for students, such as speech and OT, will be provided in some fashion in distance learning, and not just activities provided at home, but that there to be some direct instruction from the related service providers as well.
Okay. there's any more questions, then we will move on.
Thank you, Ms. Bryant.
Thank you, Ms. Bryant. I would also like to let everybody know, we would like to take a break to let our interpreter switch off. We are running about 30 minutes behind, so I hope that everybody can stay. If not, then you can watch the recorded later at your own convenience.
Or we'll check in at the break, because I know that some of our presenters have made themselves, have presented flexibility to present at a later agenda date.
So we will go on a 2-minute break so that you guys can stand up. I'm sorry, interpreter in Spanish, you're on the English. I'm sorry. Thank you. So we will take a quick 2-minute break and let our interpreters switch. I will stay on if anybody has anything that they want to add. So we'll just take that break.
Ms. Ayala, can I ask a question to the superintendent now, since we're on a break, if he's still on?
If he will take it, sure.
Mr. Aguilar, are you on? Okay, probably took a break. Oh, hi, Mr. Aguilar. Quick question for you. Is there any possibility that, I know the talks with the labor partners in the past have been really difficult, really challenging. Is there any possibility right now with the new world we live in that there might be a possible strike, teacher strike, or walkout, or anything like that that can really, really do damage with what we have in place right now with distant learning?
Well, it's a good question, Mr. Goris. I mean, I'll just give you my perspective, probably not the appropriate responder. But I mean, keep in mind that we're not physically showing up at work at this time. I'm not sure what a stoppage might look like virtually. But look, I mean, we are focusing on getting through the process of negotiations and hope that we can reach an agreement. There's a lot of concern, I think, from all parties and from our community, and it's been expressed here and in other listening sessions. The impact of lost instruction on our students is something that we can't dismiss and we can't disregard either. So we are going to do everything we can to make sure that that we're in a position where we can start on September 3rd with an agreement that meets the needs of our students.
Great. Thank you so much, Superintendent. And I just want to let you know, I know sometimes in my public comments, things might come out with a negative connotation or anything, but it's not. You don't have the bigger fan than me. I think your heart is in the right place. I think you're trying to do everything you can. And I just want the best thing for our kids. That's the only thing. So you have an ally in me. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Aguilar, for taking that question during our break. I hope that everybody got to stretch, take a couple of breaths, take their eyes away from the screen, and we will move on to our next agenda item, which Ms. Iniguez.
Well, I can introduce it. I believe Ms. Iniguez might be giving support to the interpreters right now.
Okay.
So we have an English learner program update that includes virtual walkthroughs of elementary classrooms, just brief little clips so you can see designated ELD. We don't want to go into teacher talk, and something that if you're a frequent guest of DELAC and a participant of DELAC, you'll know that I have two hats in the district. I am the vice president of DELAC, but also a teacher in the district. And so I try to be really cognizant of that. And if it becomes too teacher-y, please check me about it. The the high school presentation is a student panel that Melanie Bean, when we noticed that there was only one training specialist for all of our secondary schools, middle schools and high schools. That's one person, that's Melanie Bean, a superstar, a rock star. And I'm so excited for those of you who don't know her to get to meet her. She's so flexible, and she has offered in the preservation of time, so we can do the LCA plan with Stephen to move that agenda item to the end. And if we have time, we can do it. And if not, we can move it to a future DELAC meeting. So I don't see, oh, I do see Asadel. So Asadel, would you like to introduce the video, the first video for Ms. Cisneros? And you're muted.
I so greatly apologize for that. Here we're going to have a presentation, or just a small group of designated ELD instruction with Ms. Cisneros, and I believe as well, for a courtesy and time, maybe we could just use this. I know we have 2 videos, but we could just use the first one, and then we can use the other one at our next meeting, just for the purpose of time. But I'll leave that up to the team to decide. So we're going to take a look at the video. It's a 3-minute video, and I want to take a look at what or how the teacher's instructing, how she's providing feedback, immediate feedback to the student, and how she's acknowledging the student, what they're trying to say. And notice that she doesn't water down the curriculum, but she keeps and maintains that academic language that's needed for our English language learners to access the rigor, the language proficiency.
And then as I played the video, and I'll probably skip to the next slide and I'll have to go back again. But this was a last minute ask of the teachers at Cesar Chavez Intermediate that are providing summer school program. So the 2 teachers, Ms. Cisneros and Ms. Vargas, who typically teaches primary at Edward Kemble, with the support of their administrator, Mr. Gabata, gave us so much DELAC love by giving us these videos at the very last minute. So this was just stuff that they were already doing. It's embedded, and I'm really looking forward to you being able to see how interwoven the English language development is within the small group setting that she has with her students.
Leanna, we can't hear the sound on the video.
Okay, we are ready.
I'll rewind it.
I want you to hold your hand, and I want idea. Okay. So I want you to write main idea on your Post-it, just like that. And show me it when you're done. Thank you, thank you. Okay, we are ready. I want you to hold your hand, and I want you to put main idea right in the center. Like this, right in the center. Just hold it. Thank you for showing me. Ooh, awesome. Thank you. So the first thing, what was the first thing that you guys told me? What was the first one? Anyone remember? Let's see. Philip, go ahead.
Circle the, I remember it said circle something.
Yeah, you're right. Do you think you remember the very first thing? Let me go ahead. I like the way you're thinking, Philip. Circle what?
Circle the title of text.
Yes, circle the title of the text. Beautiful. Let's give Philip 2 snaps. Thank you for participating, Philip. So, yes, you're right. Circle the title. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to our text. And I want everybody to take your pencil. And I want you to circle the title. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that. We're going to circle the title of our text. We are going to circle the title of our text. Thank you to those of you who are doing just that right now. And like Sari had mentioned, the title reads, Cesar Chavez, It Is My Right to Organize. Think about that title. I want you to think about that title, okay? And you uncover the main idea as soon as you explore those five different strategies, okay? Got it? All right, you guys. So unfortunately, we're not gonna get a chance to read the text, but you have a really good idea of what the main idea is. So on Monday, when we get a chance to read the text,
Great. So there you were able to see just a very small piece of teaching ELD, ELD, designated ELD instruction within the classroom. So what we're able to see is we saw small groups. So all those little blurred squares, those were students, but we blurred them because of privacy. So you were able to see small groups. You were able to see teacher using academic language, the main idea, text. You were able to see modeling. You were able to see a student-centered classroom. It was very interactive, so it was teacher talk and student talk. You were able to see that she was modeling. If it said circle, she also circled. She gave immediate feedback. Okay, show me where she had the post-it on the hand. And she said, main idea, show me your main idea on your hand. So immediate feedback, and then she celebrated. When a student said something or when he had the correct answer, let's go ahead and give him 2 snaps. So it was completely, it's sensitive to our students. They were acknowledged, and it was a great lesson to begin. And then not only that, but she uses a hook. We're not gonna read it now, but we're gonna read it on Monday. So now the students are left with, oh, I'm coming back on Monday because I wanna continue reading the story.
Thank you. Again, I want to apologize to Ms. Vargas. She had a great ELD lesson, also in using ELA content, and we were able to highlight writing. So we're going to hook you guys. This will be available at our next DELAC so that we can share with you the amazing strategies that Ms. Vargas uses with her students, as well as Ms. Bean sharing the student panel. So we do want to have an opportunity for discussion, if it's okay, that we take any questions related to what designated ELD might look like during distance learning and how to advocate. And then right after this, we will jump into the LCAP, the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan, because our local control accountability plan has been suspended for this school year. So Stephen will present on that next, if that's okay. But to discuss the English learner video that we just watched and just English language development in general during distance learning, we're wondering what you have learned this evening or prior to this evening while listening in on your students' Zoom classrooms, or just in your experience being a caregiver in the district or educator in the district as well, if you can help us to improve the services available so that they're available to all students. How might you use this information? Or what questions or recommendations do you have for DELAC, for Sacramento City Unified, for other parents, for educators, for administrators? So this is your turn.
And I don't see anybody with their hand up. I saw the question in the chat, but it was not necessarily related to ELD, but I can ask it anyways. And it says that it's difficult for them to help their 5-year-old child. Is there anything in the works to help parents help their children when we return for the fall. So I don't know who wants to take that question.
I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but the superintendent informed me that the chief academic officer might be on the call.
Hi, she is on the call.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. So if is my video? Oh, my video is on. Hi. So I'm Christine Bieda, and I am the chief academic officer, which means I care for the learning for all of our children, and it's my absolute honor. When the question comes up about how do we support our families when we have children in the home and we're trying to also do instruction at the same time for our students, that is a really, it's an area where we're trying really hard to think about what more we can do for our families to be of support. What we've tried to do is in our planning is to plan for more of the direct instruction for students through the synchronous learning, so that our families know that our children will have like that beautiful instruction we just saw. We know that if a child has really good instruction, when they move to the asynchronous part of their learning, they'll have more opportunity to be able to do the work independently. We know that in the spring, when we just assigned students things to do, it makes it really difficult for the children to be able to complete some of that work on their own if they don't have the instruction and support that they need to be able to complete it. So some of the support and independence that we plan to be able to bring to our families so that our students can do the work, and parents are side-by-side partners, but are able also to do some of the things that they need to do in their homes if they're caring for other children in the home, is to better prepare our students to be able to do the work that needs to be done. I don't know if that completely answers the question, because if we're talking about from a daycare perspective, that's really an area that we're still exploring. It's going to be, we know that's really difficult for our families and for our parents, but it's an area that we're still exploring.
I think it's the language barrier for her, or for this family in particular.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there's anything that can help that language gap, or if there's anything that's being developed to help. I know that we discussed having mock help, so I think that's something that we can keep exploring and we can bring up at another meeting.
And we'll need guidance on how to explore communication with mock to ensure that these services are available to our families and students and staff.
I love the screencasting and being able to read parents' rights idea. And while we were all visiting about that idea, I tried to capture, I don't know if I captured it in its entirety, but I did my best and sent an email over to some folks, including Mr. McPeters, who supports our mock center, to see if we can just get some ideas generated around how to be able to support with that. I think that's a really great idea.
Okay. There was a question. I'm sorry, there's a question in the chat, and it says, is ELD supposed to be embedded with everything we do? And is there supposed to be a specific time set aside for specific ELD instruction? This needs to be clarified for teachers.
I would love to start with that, and then if anybody else wants to join in from your expertise, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So first and foremost, our teachers need to ensure that during all content in every single thing that they're doing, that they know their English learners in their classroom, that they know their students' needs, and that they are providing, and we call that integrated, that means within the instruction, integrated English language development. So our teachers have to plan for that, knowing the needs of the students that are either in their classroom all day, if it's an elementary classroom, or in that specific period and content area in our secondary space. And that really is one of the most important areas of teacher learning and development and for parent advocacy, because that's the place where our children spend the bulk of their learning time. And we want to make sure that they have the on-ramp and the access to the content. And that happens through the integrated ELD. But the designated ELD is also very important. And that's the time where when a teacher learns how a student is interacting during that integrated ELD, they find out how to better provide that student access during a designated time where that student gets particular instruction for where they are in their development to be able to get them additional acceleration. And so our students do, and in our proposal, we have what's called targeted synchronous instructional time that we're using for one of the ways that our teachers can use this is to provide designated ELD. And you see this little chart where we are recommending an amount of minutes that are really targeted for that designated ELD instruction to really hone in and meet students' acceleration needs.
Thank you, Ms. Vieira. There is another, I'm sorry. There's another question in the chat, and it says, does the district have any plans to utilize the 4th R or other after-school program providers similar to what Natomas Unified has announced?
You know what, I'll have to get back to you on what we can do with 4th R. We have been examining what we can do with some of our partners around being able to support families. But there are some, as we all know, there are some considerations and restrictions regarding health and safety that we would need to make sure that we're adhering to. And so I always start there and then move into what else we might be able to do. So I don't have a great answer for what we can do yet with 4th R.
Yeah, I can add to that. Thank you, Ms. Vieira. I'll mention that, and I know that several of our board members are on the same call now. We have been talking to the city of Sacramento about determining whether we can make use of city-owned or city-run facilities so that we can have perhaps some community-based organizations, nonprofits that we already work with through our 21st Century Grant, through ACES. Many of the nonprofits that we work with are nonprofits that the city also works with. So it would be more than just say 4th R. 4th R happens to be a city-run program, which is why you've heard of it. But we have a number of other community-based organizations until the Sac County Public Health Department allows in-person support or in-person interaction to take place in our facilities. We're trying to make it possible the city of Sacramento to see if they might be able to use city-run, city-owned facilities, community centers, libraries, and other facilities, again, so that our wonderful nonprofits might be able to provide some of those in-person supports and services to our students and families.
Thank you, Superintendent Aguilar. There is a couple of more questions. One is there consideration for an academic plan for bandwidth restrictions? Some families have more than one student in the home and multiple students online can stress individual home internet connection.
It's a question that's been raised, and we have started conversations. Our partnership at the moment is with Comcast, and except for situations in which any of our families are living in a household that is not served by Comcast, and even during this call, Comcast, because we do think that the best service for our families today have prepared for issuing mobile hotspots are even slower in terms of bandwidth. To be parked near several of our school sites and other facilities. That program, I hope, can be expanded. One of the challenges was trying to identify the best places to park those capability that does extend beyond the school itself. We're going to do everything we can so that our students can stay home and stay healthy as they participate in distance learning. But again, I will follow up to see if there is an issue of bandwidth. In other words, if Comcast is not extending the bandwidth for the Internet Essentials program, and ask more specifically if that's an issue.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent Aguilar. There is another question, and it says, another concern is that of having a learning space for all children in the household. A family asked if the district would be able to let families borrow desks, if that's an option.
Yes, I'm going to have to look into that. We do know that for the plans that we're developing for blended learning, in which we would have smaller groups of students in our we were going to have to remove us from our schools. So I'd have to get back to you. I think it's an important consideration because we know that it's important for our students to be able to stay focused while they're participating in distance learning, and many times circumstances don't allow for that. I'd have to get back to you on that question, but I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I think I have one more in the chat, and then we have someone with their hand raised. So I'll ask the question in the chat, and then we'll go with Ms. Jaime Razo. It says, in addition, is there an online volunteer tutoring plan to be constructed? There are many retirees in the Pocket area that would be interested in applying for that.
I appreciate that. I do want to just also just let our community know that we are in discussions with our higher ed partners to provide virtual tutoring. As you know, our higher ed partners work with our students during the traditional academic school year. We are working with them very closely to assign virtual tutors through Sac State, for example, and are working closely with them to make sure that we have clearance from or all the clearance process taken care of so that they can be in front of our students providing virtual tutoring. I love the idea of volunteer tutors, and we would treat them the same as we treat volunteers during the traditional academic year. I would get back to you on that question as well, because we don't have currently the structure in place to promote and then process volunteers and then assign them as well. But please know that we are working with our higher ed partners for that process.
Thank you, Superintendent Aguilar. And so we'll go with Ms. Jaime Razo. She had a question.
Yes, my question is more about the support that teachers are getting. I know that some people are, they have kids that are teaching, and these kids sometimes are in the middle of the lesson. And how can we make sure that these teachers are, have some support or what is the district going to do about those kind of situations when the teacher cannot, basically teach and at the same time watch, her own kid. So that's my concern with that. The other part is like, how are we going to make sure that our students are basically, or the teachers are teaching full time, like a lesson, if I have control to have a, if I'm able to teach for, I don't know, 58 minutes, well, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, but I want to end the class at, 40 minutes. What is the district going to do about it? How are they going to find out?
Interesting.
Ms. Vieta, would you take that one just in terms of our expectations for our teachers?
Absolutely. I think first of all, being able to support teachers with students in their home is going to be, I think that's something that's difficult, that teachers will have to work into a conversation with their principal if they have a real difficulty being able to teach and care for their students, because our expectation is that our teachers are teaching our students. I think that's first and foremost. It's still, even though we're in our homes, it's still our job. And so we need to be able to help and be able to try to help people to work through the difficulties. But if a teacher's teaching our students, it's our expectation that they're teaching our students. That's first and foremost. And then regarding the amount of minutes, some of what we're doing is we have in our proposal, we're asking that our principals, as well as all the other support providers. So this evening, you've asked some excellent questions like about instructional aides. You've asked some questions about special education teachers. And we know that some of our teaching situations are co-teaching models. And we've asked that anybody who helps to support a student or a teacher have access to that teacher's Google Classroom, and that will include the principal. So if a teacher publishes a schedule, and the other thing we have in our proposal is that every Monday, the beginning of every week, across the whole district, every parent can expect what is the schedule for the week, so that you'll know what the schedule is, what time your students should be in teaching. And so if your teacher is not there teaching or leaves before the lesson is supposed to be over, you should ask the teacher why. And if you still can't get a clear answer, you're going to want to go to the principal and ask make sure the principal knows that the teacher's not teaching what the teacher's scheduled to teach. Those would be the important things to do, because it is our expectation that the teachers are teaching the students, and that we have access to, just like we do right now, or if we have access to the building, our principals and other support providers are walking the building, walking into classrooms, celebrating some of the beautiful instruction and what children are learning. And we need to be able to also do that in this virtual space. Does that help to answer your questions?
Yes.
Oh, good.
I just want to, make sure that, the principals know that.
Yes, it's such a good question. I'm so grateful for that question.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions in the chat, and I don't see anybody else with their hand up. If there's no more questions on that, we will move on to the last part.
Oh, I have a parent that texted me a question.
Okay, go ahead.
And, oh, I see a parent raising their hand in a red shirt, but I don't see a name. You're welcome to unmute yourself. Marisol? Yeah, you're welcome to join. You can unmute yourself. Turn on your microphone. Yes.
Español.
Go ahead in Spanish.
Sí, buenas tardes, mi nombre es... Ok, mi pregunta es, he estado teniendo la experiencia ahorita con mi hija en la escuela, Summer School. Ok, estoy tratando. Mi experiencia es así, se me ha hecho bien difícil. No he podido ayudar a mi hijo. Tengo niño pequeño, no he podido ayudar a mi hijo también, igual que la otra mamá. No he podido ayudar a mi hijo respecto a las indicaciones que la maestra me da porque no entiendo nada y no sé usar la computadora. ¿Hay algún plan para nosotros los padres? No hablo inglés y no sé usar una computadora.
Oh, the Spanish interpreter.
Gracias.
Ms. Sanchez, I don't know if the audio was bad on my end or for everyone else.
We hear you in English, yes. I heard the question.
I heard it.
And if I heard the question, it was about parental support.
Superintendent, you're probably on a different interpreter, you're on the English, and then I think superintendent, you're on a different channel.
I'll stop sharing so I can tell him. We heard the Marisol's question. One moment. Super. And yes, if you're hearing my voice here, you need to select an interpretation channel, English, Spanish, or your preference. I'm returning to the English channel now.
Go ahead, Superintendent.
Gracias.
Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. And the question about parental support and families who want to help their children and support them but don't understand how to use computers.
And the language barrier.
The language barrier. Would you like me to answer in Spanish? I don't want to confuse things.
You're welcome to answer in Spanish, and if the interpreter can then interpret to English for us.
Buenas tardes, buenas noches, señora. Excelente pregunta que nos mire, primeramente, felicidades y muchas gracias.
May I interrupt? I'm sorry. Superintendent, could you click onto the Spanish channel so that the English audience can listen to English?
¿Así?
We would prefer if he could do it in Spanish and if you could interpret onto the English. Thank you. Yeah, please stay there and he'll go to Spanish.
Okay, sorry. So I'm on the Spanish and I'll speak in Spanish. Okay. Señora, muchas gracias por su excelente pregunta. Primeramente, pues la felicito porque por su interés y ese compromiso de madre, de padre, para el bienestar de su hijo, de su hija. Mire, nosotros estamos ahorita viendo la manera de proveer esos servicios de soporte, de apoyo, para que padres de familia como usted, que están listos para asistirnos y asistir a sus hijos para el bienestar académico, social, emocional, pero que tienen esa limitación que tenemos pues muchos. De hecho, ahorita me está viendo también sufriendo un poquito por la tecnología, que queremos proveer esos servicios de apoyo para que usted sienta esa confianza de poder ayudarles a sus hijos a subir asignaturas, de subir tareas, de poder entablar en conversaciones, de saber cómo apoyar a sus hijos con sus maestros también. Desafortunadamente, pues esta pandemia surgen más problemas todavía debido a estas otras limitaciones, pero mire, yo me comprometo a seguir viendo la manera de proveer esos servicios de apoyo. Si no lo podemos hacer por medio del distrito, estamos buscando la manera de hacerlo por medio de organizaciones no lucrativas, que trabajan ya con nuestros padres de familia que hablan su idioma para el bienestar de todos nuestros hijos en el distrito de Sacramento. Me encantaría seguir trabajando con usted y dar seguimiento a este tema en estas próximas semanas. Por favor, si me pudiera o si les pudiera dar los datos a nuestra presidenta del DELAC para dar seguimiento al tema.
Muchas gracias, muy agradecida. So, ¿a quién le doy mi número, mi nombre?
It's okay. You can, if you want to put it in the chat or tell me, I'll write it down. The chat might be better.
Okay, mi número de teléfono. Dale a mi teléfono mucho. Mi nombre es Marisol Espinosa. Y por favor. Mi número de teléfono. ¿916? 761 4277.
Lo voy a repetir para si no está correcto. Es 916-761-4277.
Thank you.
Muy amable.
Can I share something really quickly or ask, is Mr. Turkey still on here? Mr. Turkey?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
I am. Hello.
Mr. Turkey, can you share with the team, we do have our Family and Community Empowerment Department working with Curriculum and Instruction Department to build lessons for parents on technology to help them learn to help their student at home with the computers. So Matt, can you share a little bit about that with that work and where it's at for our families?
Sure, of course. And we actually had a meeting today with the communications office around this very topic. And so we will be providing both videos and instructions in different languages and in a form which is very accessible. Because what we found is that we have lots of information on the website now, but it may not be very easy to find and very easy to access. And so our communications department are going to work on putting this in I think it's called a mini website, I believe. And so everything is in one place and easy to access. So there'll be videos there and there'll be instructions in there to do around things like how to use Google Classroom, which will be in all of our major languages.
Can I make a suggestion to DELAC leadership? Can we get this division to come to our next DELAC meeting and maybe do a presentation if possible?
We're coordinating having agenda items for different departments in the district can share, but thank you.
I'm sorry. Yes, you did tell me that in the message. Sorry about that.
It's okay. So I pulled up currently how the website is for the Family and Community Empowerment, and I wanted to also highlight what's been available since we have interpreters today. So if you come to the top and you click on Select Language, you can select any of the languages here. I believe if they use Google Translate, perhaps, Google Technology. And so if you wanted Spanish, for example, you would scroll all the way down to Spanish. I need to keep going. And it will translate the entire page for you. It takes, yeah, it is Google. We see it in the corner. So now all of the content is translated for you. So that's a feature that's available, and then you can change it back to English, or you can change it to a different language. So I wanted to share that quickly. Just anywhere when you're on the district site, when you see this globe icon, if you need interpretation, just like we have the globe icon on Zoom, that's how you can change it.
¿Puedo hacer una pregunta?
Claro que sí.
Mi nombre es Teresa Hernández y ese es un problema que viene desde cuándo. La pregunta es, ¿ya está ese programa ya está ahorita o hasta el siguiente mes? Van a hacer una presentación y ya será muy tarde si es que van a hacer el siguiente mes. Ya vamos a estar en clases. No, de la tecnología para los padres, para que sepan cómo entrar y cómo ayudar a sus estudiantes.
So I'll interpret to English if it makes Isabel feel more comfortable. The question is about these programs for the teacher, not for the teachers, for the families to be able to get training for technology and get support for their families to support their students at home. When will these programs be available to families? Because if it's available a month from now, school will have already started, and that's too late to be playing catch up. So kind of speaking to Junior's recommendation about having it as an agenda item, of course we want to be inviting different departments in the district to speak, but we still think that FACE, the acronym for the department, they should be hosting these meetings that are accessible to all families to participate in different languages sooner than the start of school. So it shouldn't be relying on DELAC having a meeting for families in the DELAC community to get these resources. ¿Sí, Teresa?
Ms. Sanchez, I agree that it is not DELAC's responsibility to empower parents this way, nor should it just be done through DELAC. We are working as hard as we can through the FACE department. That is the department that we have in place to provide these kinds of supports. They are shifting all of their work remotely. Initially, the work still focused on what they had been doing during the academic year through parent empowerment based curriculum, if you will. We did not shift quickly enough into distance learning as a new way of learning for our parents. And so we are going to continue to do everything we can through the FACE department. But I just don't think that the FACE department alone will be able to do this. We have 2 full-time staff members in our FACE department. So it's not a large department, which is why we're working to see how we can partner with community-based organizations for this type of support.
Thank you. If there's no other questions, then we will move on to our last agenda item. I want to thank everybody who's still on the call for bearing with us, for staying as long as you have. Our last agenda item is probably the most important one, which is in reference to the LCA plan that we talked about earlier. So I would really appreciate, I know that some of you might have time restrictions and would need to go, but I would really appreciate if we can stay on for this last part. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Stephen Fong.
Hello, good evening, and thank you for allowing me to join this meeting. I want to thank the DELAC executive officers for their flexibility in meeting multiple times over the summer to brainstorm how we can better collaborate. We saw a comment in the chat that spoke to greater collaboration between the Parent Advisory Committee, which is the group that I work with as the LCAP coordinator, and the DELAC, and we're very excited to see that happen this year. This evening, I will try to share briefly with you the overview of the learning continuity and attendance plan, and then really focus on the recommendations that have been drafted to date for from the DELAC to the superintendent based on that plan, and then have an opportunity to listen to your input on those recommendations. Can someone give me a thumbs up if they can see my screen? Okay. So again, this evening, just want to spend a brief amount of time to provide an overview of what is in the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. And I wanted to note that a fantastic presentation was given last evening at the town hall by Liz Guillen. And if you have a chance to watch the town hall last night, you'll see some very good content on this plan in that presentation as well. So the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan, as was mentioned earlier, is what we are completing this month, really, and is not in place of entirely the local control and accountability plan, but does serve many of the same functions. We are still moving forward with our local control and accountability plan for the next 3-year cycle, though that will be something that we'll focus on leading into June. The purpose of the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan is to really focus in a series of prompts the district's plan for returning to school and distance learning in the fall, for developing a plan for returning to in-person instruction when it is safe to do so, and for addressing the impacts of the COVID pandemic. And in particular in the plan, we are called upon to address the impacts that have fallen disproportionately or have fallen more on those students that are most vulnerable. And it's been noted here tonight that our English learners are one of those populations. We've mentioned in our conversations in the past that this is a very rapid timeline. You can see on the slide here that September 17th is when we'll be presenting this plan for adoption to the board, and September 3rd will be our public hearing. We've been meeting with multiple stakeholder groups these past weeks, but that is certainly not the only form of engagement that's been happening. Going back to June, the district was engaging in distance learning surveys. There was a series of listening sessions with key stakeholder groups, and we've been working over the summer to contact people as much as possible. But this is a very short timeline. So in the plan itself, it asks us to describe at the very beginning, what are the impacts the COVID-19 pandemic has had on our district? That's where we talk a little bit about the impacts on basic services, the removal of our physical connection to supports. We look at our district's context, and we also talk about the expectations for distance learning that Azarel mentioned earlier. We also focus on the types of stakeholder engagement that have occurred. And at the bottom of the slide, you'll see that we are focusing on in-person instruction as well. Even though we know we're returning to distance learning, we are still called upon to describe the plan for what will happen when we do return to sites and when it is safe to do so. Regarding that point, it is important to acknowledge that just as pieces of the plan are reflecting the negotiations process, there are pieces of the plan that are going to reflect the current understanding of the health context. And as the district continues to work with Sacramento County Public Health and monitor the national and local situation, the plan will evolve to ensure that we're looking at those pieces safely. This slide gives a sense of the distance learning portion of the plan, which is of extreme focus at this time that we know we're going back to the distance learning context on September 3rd. This is really where a lot of the comments we've heard tonight have been very helpful to think about the questions that we're going to ask staff to consider for distance learning. What are the ways that we're providing continuity of instruction? How do we ensure that students, whether they're going to be blended in the future, distance now, whether they're in synchronous instruction, which is live with their teacher, or asynchronous working on their own at different times, have a continuous educational experience. We have to focus on access and connectivity. We have to be able to assess our students, understand what their learning needs are. We have to provide professional development. We know that our staff roles and responsibilities are changing. This plan is supposed to include the ways in which we're asking staff to work differently. and also our supports for pupils with unique needs. So within our supports for pupils with unique needs, English learners are specifically mentioned, and that is where we would want to focus in and discuss some of what you've shared this evening, in particular, designated integrated ELD. Other key components and parts of the plan are pupil learning loss. That's been something that the state has focused on and our district has talked about. How are we going to measure the learning loss? We know that over the course of any summer, there is learning loss. But we know that in particular this year, with the spring school closures, with the impacts of the pandemic, and now moving back into distance learning, there's going to be additional learning loss. And we also are aware that that learning loss may be disproportionate, or again, maybe more for our students who are most vulnerable. So how will we measure that? How will we address it? And how will we know that we're being effective? The mental health and social and emotional well-being of our students and our staff and our families is critical. In the plan, we're to discuss how will we monitor these, provide professional development resources, and address trauma. This is where we would be discussing our social emotional learning program, our tiered mental health supports. We've also discussed here this evening, I've been taking some great notes about pupil and family engagement and outreach. How will we be reaching out to our families and our students to support them? And in particular, to those students and families that are not engaged. We know that during the spring, there were some students and families that we had not connected with. That work has continued over the summer. That list is much smaller, but that work continues. And last but not least, school nutrition. There was a major effort to maintain the level of meal service, and we've all seen how effective that was in the spring. We also need to have a plan for what we'll do when our students and staff return to sites. And it is always important in the LCAP, whether it be our traditional LCAP or this learning continuity and attendance plan, to be able to document how we're increasing and improving services for our unduplicated students, of which English learners are one group. And this is where we would be focusing on our expenditures, our budget, and be able to document how we're using those dollars. So I'll pause there and just kind of look over to our officers if there are any clarification questions before we jump into the input and recommendations.
I don't see any in the chat. I don't know if anybody has any clarification questions.
Okay. Well, I will certainly, before we close here, put my email in the chat, and if anyone has any questions, they can reach out. This is a large document like our LCAP is. I think the focus is really, again, what are we doing to ensure that our students are going to have a quality distance learning education, that we're preparing adequately for our return to in-person instruction, and that we're acknowledging, have a plan for, and responding to the impacts of COVID that are different. The traditional LCAP is a 3-year plan for a district that is in all the normal times. This is a plan that we specifically need to really address what is happening during this pandemic. So I would invite the DELAC officers to jump in at any point during this section. These are the recommendations and input that emerged from the listening sessions in June at the close of the year, and then as well over some additional meetings here this summer. And so we're bringing them here to you this evening to discuss. And I'll read them off because I know that will assist with our translation purposes, but they're here on the screen as well, and they'll be captured for the video. Communication is a critical component. It needs to be in the home language and interactive. We need technology training for parents, families, and staff. Consider opening up 4 to 5 strategically spread out school sites where students can access the library facilities. Mental health is a key concern. Staff need to support students taking appropriate safety precautions in a loving and caring way, not a disciplinary way. Staff also need to be models of health and safety appropriate behavior. English learner needs must be considered in our planning. There needs to be ways for students to get additional time in groups. This could include utilizing the ELD training specialists and bringing in ELs on specific days. This piece referring to in-person instruction. Our trainings cannot be one size fits all for staff, students, and caregivers. Our technology, Wi-Fi access, and internet speeds have to be reliable. We need to address the different ways students learn and incorporate those needs into our framework. Be clear in stating what we can ensure versus what we intend and are planning to build towards. There needs to be more specific detail on what we are doing for English learners and how it will be documented. We need assessments specific to English learners. Diagnostic at the beginning of the year, interims ongoing, and summative. Student support centers with weekly cost process, coordination of service teams that considers needs of each individual English learner at school site, beginning with newcomers. Examples would be the Sacramento County Office of Education Student Success Plan. Social emotional learning should not be piecemeal. Needs need to be embedded into the culture of the classroom and named as it is happening. Increase access to, training for, and use of interpretation and translation services for staff and families. Consider a phone number with multilingual operators and/or a website form. I believe, Lana, that the website form is referring to a way that staff could directly access translation services. Increase funding for interpretation translation. More translators prioritized to the top 5 languages, and centralized funding for direct access to outside services for staff and families. The note here was that cheap or free alternatives are not always effective for translation. And expedited transcript evaluation and accessibility to request services at the Mock Center. And I believe this is the last series. Need to understand and adhere to position descriptions. For example, when translation or interpretation is not part of a position description, extra work must be compensated when staff consent to additional duty. And then emphasizing it took too long to release a statement regarding the killing of George Floyd by the police. The unrecognized murders of Latino men at the hands of law enforcement send a very clear message to our Latinx community that our lives don't matter. We need to mail hard copies of community engagement documents with return postage to process paper and pencil participation in addition to links and QR codes. QR codes being quick response. So thank you for your patience. I think it was important to read those out. Those again are the draft input or recommendations that would be submitted to the superintendent. Part of the learning continuity and attendance plan process, just as is part of the normal annual LCAT process, is that both the DELAC and the Parent Advisory Committee submit formally comments to the superintendent, and those comments receive responses, and those both the questions and responses are shared with the public. So I can, if it's folks are ready, I can switch the screen share to the Google Doc where we've captured these same comments, and then open it up for discussion, and any additional comments or ideas we can record on top of those for consideration.
I'll look through for any hands. I don't see any yet. But while you switch screens, Stephen, you're getting some fan mail in the chat, so I'll read it aloud. Thank you, Stephen, for your work. Would library access be by appointment or first come, first serve? Support, and it has the words county mandate, but I'm not sure.
I think it's to support county mandate. Like if there's access to the library, will it be by appointment due to social distancing?
Thank you. And then another comment. I appreciate all the information you shared and your continuous support of DELAC, which I would like to also reiterate myself. We feel really fortunate to have your support through this process.
That's very kind. And I'll just note, for some reason, the screen share is not letting me share a discrete document, so you're seeing my full screen. I hope that's okay. I'm trying to optimize the size.
Yeah, exactly. You got it.
So I I guess at this point, we really are very interested in any of the group's additional ideas for some of the key recommendations. And again, these are the items that will be submitted to the superintendent as well as staff broadly to have specific responses returned to the DELAC, but also shared with the public.
If there's a need for clarification of the comments already submitted to Stephen, we're also available for that. If there's additional comments, if wording needs to be changed or where you would like to see some wording changed, then we're also here for that as well.
The Junior's comment about the library, if we could do a quick keyword search to find where the library note was. Yeah. And to have Junior chime in if you'd like, but it seems like district support for aligning or to following county mandates for health and supporting the appointment process.
Yeah, I was just asking a question if the recommendation is accepted as far as the strategic libraries, how would that come into play? Because some of our parents don't have cars, you know what I mean? So if it's by appointment, you know what I mean? And they use public transportation, that could be an issue. So that was just a general question.
Oh, so this, unless Steve has a different way of explaining, but how I've understood it from him is that this is our input to be able to make our dream of what it is that we want. These are recommendations that we're putting in, but we can put it in as questions. But Junior, if you feel that you have a proposed solution, happy to add it to the document as well.
Okay, it was just something I was thinking about, but yes, I will look at it and I'll email you guys if I think of anything. Thank you.
Ms. Bieda?
Thank you. Could you, whoever has, or if somebody's here and can offer me additional support with, so this piece where we're looking at in-person instruction, and then the recommendation is consider opening up 4 to 5 strategically spread out sites where students can access the library. Are they accessing the library for in-person instruction to be able to have Wi-Fi access, or are we looking at having support there for instruction? Can you please teach me more about what is needed there?
If we can write down everything she just said, because those are all great questions to have for consideration as we keep editing this document. So the potential of the library being used as a learning space, because it says in-person instruction, but also so either it could be in-person direct instruction from a facilitator live, or on the computers because they need access to reliable internet.
Thank you.
I'll just chime in and note that if I recall, this was one of the specific items that came up during the listening sessions, which was much longer ago in terms of time length. And there's been a lot of evolution. So this is an aggregate amount of input from things ranging back from June all the way through now, early August. And I'm just noting that for the placements and the content.
Really incredible feedback. I just want to make sure I completely understand the concerns and needs. It really helps.
I think it extends across it. Oh, go ahead, Yoba.
I was just going to say, when we're ready, Ms. Guillen has a question when we move on.
Okay. So if anybody else has suggestions for these learning spaces and how we can dream for them to be utilized, like the library, if it's going to be for internet accessibility, if it's going to be for in-person support, whether it be, I'm just talking out loud, not necessarily note-taking unless somebody seconds it, but if we don't have student support centers at every school site, like we know that we don't, could the library space or some other space on campus be supporting that? Somebody mentioned in the chat about having tutors. There's some retired people in the Pocket area, for example, that would like to do tutoring. So a library at a school site could help with that distancing and supervision. I don't know what the fingerprinting looks like for tutors that aren't within district. That's why I know we're doing a lot of work with CBOs. But we do want to maintain the safety of our kids, which is not just health, but also when it comes to the adults and other people that they're interacting with. So being mindful of that if we were to open up spaces like this. Go ahead, Liz.
Hi, thank you. It isn't clear to me what this document is, Stephen, that you're showing. And because I just don't see the reference to the question on the desks, I want to hope that this will capture all the questions that were not fully answered in those instances when staff or the superintendent said, we'll get back to you on that. So that was my main concern. And then I also just wanted to state that on the issue of support for parents, especially on these questions, I know that you all know this, but I think it would be good to make clear on these questions that some of the access questions are about language barriers per se. So that really speaks to translation, and I think the need to address the issue with the smallness of the FACE department. I just want to say for folks that may not know some of the inside work on this, but the district has put together a pretty decent plan considering the very short amount of time that all school districts have had. I think Sac City benefits because we're in Sacramento where all these laws are made. But Sacramento City Unified also benefits because of the work that's been done in the past year since LCFF was started on their community engagement work. And that work just keeps improving. And I have to say, I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing tonight.
Just a brief response, Liz, because I think it was a great question. This document is the place where we've been gathering DELAC's input to date that may likely will end up in some form similar, but I really would defer to the DELAC, of course, for the comments of the superintendent. And I know that I believe I'm staying on afterwards with the staff, so that's where we would certainly be able to catch any of those additional questions that arose during the course of this meeting, should they have interest in including them. So any problems with the document is my fault. Any good content, their commendation.
Okay, great, thank you.
So if there's any members who are participating on any of the language audio channels, this is the time. If there's something that you've needed, I know that there's been families, now everyone should have their 1-to-1 computer ratio. Every student should have a computer. If your camera is not working, your microphone is not working, one of the letters on your keyboard is not working. The superintendent explained at yesterday's town hall that the sites, every school has the inventory to swap the technology with you, so you have reliable devices in your home for every one of your students in your home. So that used to be something we advocated before. Now we know we have the technology. We've heard people continuing to advocate for bandwidth. So Stephen, I don't know if there's anywhere on there where we can say, like, if we have English learner students who are reporting that they don't have bandwidth to support their learning at their distance learning, that there's a stipend, that there's something allocated so that they can purchase the higher bandwidth program and not just rely on a bus to drive by their home at a certain time of day. I don't know if that's something we can add. But again, as you see him writing it, this is their dream document. This is our opportunity to say what we need. Parents have advocated for tutoring. I know that Joseph Bonheim's in the house tonight. And so it's always a question of how can we get that individualized support for our students? And individualized can be individual, one-on-one, but can also be that small group with shared needs. I know that there's a parent from the extended school year program, so ESY for special education, and just speaking to how different of an experience it was from having their student in a classroom with just one teacher during spring when distance learning first started, to having a classroom with 2 teachers. I co-taught with another teacher in the classroom, and that type of support on Zoom changed the classroom entirely. So we can advocate reduce class size so that every class is a small group. We can advocate for co-teachers. You know, these things are, it's their dream document. Kristen, go ahead.
Hi, I'm the parent that was in the ESY class, and I did want to ask if the district is having any plans to increase co-teaching during distance learning. It did make an enormous difference to have 2 teachers in the classroom, just in terms of classroom management and being able to get that additional help in real time and not have to wait until later. If the student was being disruptive, they could break into a breakout session and provide additional assistance live. So I guess I'm just wondering if the district is looking at having more co-teaching. And also I wanted to ask if the district is going to use the partnership that was announced from the California Department of Education with Apple to get iPads that are, I guess, partnered with T-Mobile, so already have Wi-Fi connected to them, or cell phone service, in terms of addressing some of the questions regarding connectivity for students.
Well, thank you for the question. I'm noting the questions. I'll certainly defer to other staff in the room if they want to answer here, but there are also questions that we'd be relaying onwards, so we can certainly bring back those answers.
Yeah, and I can speak to the Apple program. This is Victoria Flores. They serve as the Director of Student Support and Health Services. I do know our purchasing team reached out to Apple and T-Mobile and are trying to figure out how we get access. So working on it.
As folks are raising their hand, I'll just note that I really appreciate the conversation that was happening throughout this meeting, as it had a lot of overlap with the recommendations. So I just want to acknowledge that the notes I was taking in a separate document really saw a lot of the similar input, particularly with regard to accessing services and information through increased translation interpretation services and some of the particular supports that we need in the classroom with regard to the designated integrated ELD pieces. So there was a tremendous amount of alignment in today's, this evening's meeting with what the DELAC has been discussing ongoing. As we may be waiting for the questions, I did see a note in the chat, and it may have been to me privately, but we are in the process of having the full draft translated into the major languages. That will be available. And that draft was dated last Friday. And so we're acknowledging this is a situation in which we have a very accelerated process, and the draft is being built at the same time as we're seeking feedback. And so future drafts will be more complete, but we do want to make sure that draft comes out as soon as possible for additional feedback. So that will be in our major languages.
So while I scan for hands, I'm going back to the what questions or recommendations do you have after Ms. Iniguez's presentation on Return to Learn, the overview, which the superintendent did ask that I emphasize, this is a district's proposal for Return to Learn. So it's still pending those labor negotiations, but this is what the district is proposing. So when we look at the questions, when we consider what questions you might have or recommendations to add to this document, these these 5 areas were outlined on the Return to Learn plan: academics, attendance and engagement, culture and climate, nutrition services, and public health. I did ask if Ms. Flores could add her role in the district, if she can help give us some recommendations regarding mental health, regarding the Connect Center, if some people might be unaware. And then another hat that I'm happy to wear in the district is I'm the co-facilitator of the Genders and Sexualities Alliance chapter at California Middle School, where I teach. And so that is also part of her umbrella. So if she could speak to some of that and how we can make recommendations.
Sure, yeah, this is an area I'd love to have more conversation, because I know, time is a little tight, but we are working on a return to support plan that we're going to be putting out. We've got part of that plan is around climate and culture, and really weaving social emotional learning into all learning that's happening throughout the day. And I know Christine Bayetta and Matt Turkey can speak to that as well. But then to layer on top of that, we do have access to school-based mental health supports, just really focusing on helping our students and our families promote and support their well-being, all the way to maybe intensive support services. And Marcela Rodriguez is on with us tonight. She can give you a wave. She serves as one of our student support center coordinators out at Sam Brannan Middle School, and so she's doing this work. And then for all of those schools that don't have that site-based support, we do have the Connect Center. And so it's located there at the district office. We have lots of different language capacity in the Connect Center, from Spanish and Hmong. Some of our social workers speak Russian as well. And we always work with our community-based organizations and our community partners to make sure that we can provide linguistic and culturally relevant supports. Same for our LGBTQ support services. We are really leaning in and trying to make sure that we can give guidance to our educators and our families and how to support our LGBTQ identified students. From being respectful of names and pronouns, how we show up in virtual space, being sensitive to some of those needs. And we're trying to figure out how we can do short webinars and make this information incredibly accessible, and also accessible in language. We're working very closely with the FACE department. I was so excited to see Sean Alexander and her team get some love tonight, along with Stephen, and doing some short webinars with them on ways that parents can support their own well-being so that they can support their children. Right? Many of us are working, we're parenting, we're teaching. This is an incredibly stressful time, and we've all been impacted by this pandemic in different ways. So we welcome any other ideas that people have or suggestions. I really encourage this team to check out our virtual calming room. I'll stick the link in there. It's a really fun place to just spend a few minutes before you go to bed. And so, Leanne, if there's anything else I didn't hit, please feel free.
I have a question.
I'd love to invite you to a future meeting. Yeah, thank you.
I have a question for Ms. Flores, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Flores, with the Connect Center, once this pandemic is all over and we're all returning to campuses and we're going on with some sort of normality in our life, can representatives from the Connect Center visit the sites, maybe do a road show or something once a month? Only because I think it's easier. The Connect Center, I think, has to be a little more, should be a little more proactive versus receptive. So just a suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We always welcome those. And yeah, they're welcome to go out to sites. They're kind of a small but mighty team like the FACE department. But I do know we run our LGBTQ task force, and they hold meetings throughout the district at different school sites. So that's some, you know, similar model that we could do.
Thank you.
It's getting late. We don't want anyone to feel rushed, so I'll put our email again. If somebody thinks of a recommendation after we end the call, but we did want to make sure that if anybody wanted to share something to be considered for the document, they had the opportunity to do so, and so that it can be collaborative. You might have an idea that we can build on, or ask more questions that might create a new idea. So this space is really great for us. But I also know some people might feel a little more comfortable sending an email instead. So I'll write our email in the chat again.
Leon, I just wanted to chime in and say that while here on the screen, we're looking at the document that is more time sensitive. I put my email into the chat, and I'll be staying in touch with DELAC. Input can come in anytime, and we really are looking to create an open channel of communication. So any input that comes in after this document is sent will still be very valuable. And any information that comes in after this entire plan is completed will still be extremely useful for us to move right into our local control and accountability plan, our uppercase LCAP. And I appreciate the last conversation I had with DELAC, which, the emphasis was this plan is extremely important, but it is also a building block or a stepping stone to the next piece, which is our 3-year plan. And here we're trying to address some critical issues around distance learning and the pandemic, but we're also talking about fundamental improvements to our system that are going to be useful for our conversations moving forward way beyond the immediate next months.
So since I don't see any more hands or questions in the chat, I'll share our final slide, which is information about upcoming dates. Unless you needed to add anything else, Stephen.
No, just thank you again for taking this time, and thank you to the DELAC officers for, really building this connection that I am very excited to say will be stronger this year to ensure that the voice of this particular group, but also all of the parents and students that you represent are going to be heard loudly and be able to really convey the important experiences that you have.
Thank you. So, President Ayala, will you do the honor?
We want to say thank you, first of all, for staying as long as you have. We want to let you know about some important dates. Also know that this is being recorded. It will be up on the website. I can't promise you a date yet, but the English version will probably go up as soon as possible. The translated versions will take a little longer because we are planning on having the meeting translated. So we have the consolidated application spring report special meeting on August 18th, and that will be with Ms. Kelly Odipo. We will send out an invite for that because it's really important for our DELAC parents to be at this. The consolidated application will not be approved unless DELAC approves, so we really need you guys to be there for that. There is a Sac City Unified School District School Board meeting on August 20th. I know that there was a lot of comments made today that superintendent couldn't answer, and this is your time to also submit public comment there so that the board members and Superintendent Aguilar can answer them in the future. Our next DELAC meeting will be Wednesday, September 9th, which will be right when school starts. And we will be excited to hear what you guys have to say about the beginning of school and how things are going. Know that we are here to support all of you, parents, teachers, the staff, and we are a resource for all of you. Please feel free to reach out to us with any questions that you have. And then I would like to we would like to say thank you to all the services that everybody provides to our students. We are a community. It's true that they say it takes a village, and I feel like in this moment, it truly takes a village to raise our children. I am very grateful, and I thank all of you for staying for the 3 hours that we have been on. I cherish your time, and if there's anything else, we will end our meeting. Thank you, everybody.